Well, it's always difficult, of course. There's definitely, we seem to the last few weekends have lost 2-3 players every weekend. So we're inheriting all of the issues that are apparent at some clubs at the moment. So, but completely out of our control, and we have to adjust and adapt and make the best decisions possible once you're in that situation. And of course, it gives opportunities for other people to come in and stake a claim. So we're always looking at the positive side of that, really.
I think Alex is going to ask you about Jarrad Branthwaite because he knows him very well, which is a heck of a day for him. I want to ask you about Kalvin Phillips, who misses out in this squad. You've been very supportive to him for a long period of time now, picking him when he wasn't really playing for Manchester City at all, giving him game time. He's not in this squad, but a significant one, the last squad you named before you have to pick your Euros squad. Is it going to be a tall order for him now to force his way back in time for the Euros?
Well, I think he knows exactly what we think of him. I think we've shown that support. A good version of him is an important player for us, and that's why we've supported him as we have. We don't have many players of that profile, so unfortunately his form just hasn't been good enough, and I've spoken to him about that. He understands. He's got all the attributes to force his way back in, and we're really keen for him to do that. But I said towards the end of last year when we were picking squads, if he had continued not to play at City, that was going to be a problem. And he just needs to find that rhythm and confidence because there's an outstanding player in there, and I'm sure he'll find that.
Hi, Gareth. Jarrad Branthwaite's in the squad for the first time, a player that's come through the pathway with the England under-21s. What's he done to impress you?
Well, he's played consistently well. His development, we watched him as a backup centre-half in the under-21 finals last year, and if you'd said to me he would play as consistently well at Premier League level as he has, then I'd have questioned that last summer. So great credit to him and to Sean that he's given a young centre-half an opportunity. He's good with the ball, shows good composure, good mentality. He's a left-footer, which we don't have many left-footed defenders. So he's in on merit, and we're really keen to work with him and find out a bit more about him.
And Cole Palmer, in the last camp, he was called up from the under-21s due to injury, but he was playing well at Chelsea. He's sustained that form. Has he surprised you that he's been able to continue playing so well for so long?
Well, I don't know about surprised, but you can see and have always been able to see the quality he has. Again, the time we spent with the under-21s last summer, just watching the training sessions, you could see what an outstanding technical finisher he was. Some players get chances and you expect them to score because their techniques and their feel for finishing is so strong. So he has that. He's shown great composure in some real pressure moments for his club, and he's adaptable. He can play in 2 or 3 different positions, I think, maybe more. So he's had an outstanding season. Again, is in on merit as everybody is.
Gareth, Ivan Toney's back in the squad at the first time of asking, which I think speaks volumes about how much you think of him. But I want to ask you about whether there's room for him when you're looking at your squad of 23 for the Euros. Is there room for both him and Ollie Watkins? Can you afford 2 strikers, as understood as to Harry Kane?
Maybe, maybe not. I genuinely don't know the answer to that. That will depend on what sort of cover we need, what the profiles of the rest of the squad are, whether we need a couple of players that are adaptable, can play in different positions. That means you can take specialists in certain other positions. I think we feel that Ivan is one of the contenders in that role, so important to bring him back in and be able to work with us again. He showed straight away, getting back into Brentford's team, the quality and the impact that he can have. Equally, Ollie is having an outstanding season with Aston Villa and is a player in excellent form. And I have to say, Unai has done a brilliant job with Villa, and he's a player that's benefited from that work.
I want to ask you about Ben White, because look, we know you've got significant injury problems at fullback. It used to be a position you were blessed with and couldn't fit everybody in. Now you don't seem to have any, or hardly any fit fullbacks available. And then you've got Ben White, who's playing really well for the team that are leading the Premier League right now, and he's still not getting his place. I know it's a difficult situation, but is he available for selection for England at the moment?
No, look, it's absolutely the question you should ask, because clearly on form, I can't sit here and say he doesn't deserve to be in. John McDermott, had a call from Edu last week to say that Ben didn't want to be considered for England squads at this time. For me, that's a great shame. He's a player I really like. He's a player that we took to a Euros when he was at Brighton, a player that we took to the World Cup. I spoke to him post-Qatar because I was keen to pick him, and there was clearly reticence on his side. I don't know fully why that is, but I have to respect that. I want to leave the door open for him because he's a good player, and I think he's a player that can make a difference for England. But he's not available to us. And so the only other thing I would say is there is no issue between us at all. And also should say there's never any issue with Steve Holland, because that has been sort of mentioned in articles, and I don't like that. You know, people can talk about me and say I have to accept that things get said and are false about me, and for whatever reason in this role you have to almost stomach that. But I'm not prepared for that to happen for a key member of my coaching team, because that is not the reason that Ben is unavailable for selection.
Just to follow up on that, Gareth, if he was to make himself available, is the door closed? Is it still open for him to make the Euro squad?
100%. Just said, you know, I want that door wide open. He would be in this squad, but he's not available to us, and so I have to focus on those that can help us.
Joe Gomez is back in the England squad for the first time in 4 years, and with the smaller number being able to take to the Euros, is having someone who's so versatile key going into the tournament?
Well, firstly, it's great to see him playing regularly at Liverpool. It's obviously been a couple of years since he's done that, and he's such a lovely boy. I've known him since the under-17s when they won in Malta, when he was at Charlton. So we've always had great faith in Joe. Looks like we're going to be thrown out here. I don't know if I should have a Roy Keane moment at this stage, but I won't. So, yeah, no, we love working with Joe. We're delighted to see him back playing. He is versatile. He's in very good form at this moment in time, and we look forward to seeing him next week.
And in previous eras of England squads, there's always been one position that's been trickier to fill than others. Is left-back one in this era of England team?
I think we've got a few, really. You know, I've said for a long time, in some positions we have a lot of depth, and in others we are very short of depth. Left back is clearly one. We're hopeful that Ben comes through this week with Chelsea. He obviously missed the last game. And we have other players that might be able to adjust and play that role, Joe being one. Yeah, as I say, it's an area where Luke being out is a big blow.
And if I could just ask you a question away from the pitch, there's a number of EFL or players who have been in the EFL in this England squad, and the Premier League and the clubs in the EFL haven't been able to agree a financial deal. Do you think that's a bit of a shame that they haven't been able to?
I don't know the details. Clearly, as you said, lots of players start in the EFL, have loans in the EFL, so it's a great part of our football pyramid. But equally, I don't know what's being asked or the detail around that debate.
Gareth, while you're on the subject of injuries, and you say Ben Chilwell, you'll see how he gets on. I think it's similar for Harry Maguire, isn't it? That he may or may not play for Manchester United this weekend. So how are they, as far as you're aware? And what are your backup plans if they're not fit?
Well, both are back into training. So we just have to see how that goes through the week. We obviously have contingency plans in every area of the pitch. Some of those would be with the under-21s. You know, there are some players in the under-21s some young players who are doing exceptionally well, especially in midfield, likes of Kobe Mainu, likes of Harvey Elliott. Rico was with us last time. Archie Gray at Leeds is doing very, very well, I have to say. So there are a number of players in that group that we could move in. That'll obviously mess up what Kars is trying to do with his squad, but it's obviously most important that we have the depth with the seniors first.
You mentioned Kobe Mainu there. Is it right that you don't think he's quite ready to make that step up into the senior squad, and he's probably going to be with the 21s?
Well, I think that he's doing brilliantly for a young player, and we're never slow to put a young player into the seniors, but he's only had a handful of games, and you have to be very careful development-wise in making those decisions at the right time. So we think ideally we should allow him that space to develop at his own speed. You know, he's not at the point in terms of number of games or that Jude or Bukayo were when they came in for the first time. But I repeat, he's doing really well for a young player. He's a good footballer, you can see that. And he's getting some fabulous experience with Manchester United at the moment, and looks a really good character.
Last one from me, I wanted to ask about Jordan Henderson, another player that you've offered a lot of support to when he's had some difficult times, maybe recently. Did you speak to him when he made that move? Did he call you to talk about his move from Saudi Arabian Pro League to Ajax? And because the understanding I have is that he was desperate to make sure he was playing at a level that could keep him in your thoughts.
We did speak, yeah. I'm obviously not going to divulge that conversation, but yeah, it's good to see him playing back in a league that's probably easier to assess. And of course, European football, he had the game against Villa last week as well, which is easier for us to see the level he's operating at. So he's had a big influence on Ajax since he's been there. I know they're very, very happy with him. We know what he brings. We know the leadership he brings. You saw in the game last week the game understanding that we have to have some balance with all of the attacking players that we've got, and Hendo is somebody that brings a lot to the team.
Last one from me, Gareth. Anthony Gordon, I know you mentioned him in the last international camp. He's named for the first time in the senior squad. What has he done to grab your attention this time around?
Consistently good performances. He was very close in November, as we said at the time. He's continued his form. He's scoring. His work for the team is excellent. He competes, which is important. So I really like his attitude. Again, he's another one that we watched closely with the under-21s, where he fulfilled a different role as a sort of a false nine, but did that really well. So yeah, he's had a very good season. Has got goals against some of the big teams as well, which for us is also very interesting to see.
Thanks, Alex and Rob.